Good to be here. Always good to be here. Welcome to another episode of Matt's Art Chat. On this episode, I talk with an old friend of mine, Thomas Quain, from my old film school days when we were studying at the Galway Mayo Institute of Technology about a decade ago. What's wrong, Chloe? I can't believe it's been a decade since I did that. Since I studied film at GMIT. But anyways, time flies. This is Chloe. This is my little sister, Chloe. I must say that he was always one of the most creative and ambitious and just talented of the bunch of all of us who studied that course. And over the years, he's been involved with a lot of projects, and I'm not surprised. He's also shot his first fiction feature film. It's called I'm Talking to You. We talk about that. And we also talk about what he's working on now, including a documentary he filmed around general election time here in Ireland, which at the time of recording this conversation we were trying to understand the outcomes. It's pretty difficult to know what's going on, isn't it, Chloe? And also the current animation series that he's working on. So that's all cool, and we talk about that and more. And that's part of the beauty of me doing this, is to reconnect with old friends or people whom I've met over the years, and or just people I haven't talked with for a long time too. So it was a lot of fun to chat with Tom. But before we begin, let me just voice a little of my frustrations at having received my first copyright strike on my channel for using the footage of the lava lamp for this specific series, for my Matt Art Chat, which I always, encourage people to just listen to these videos and go about their day. But, there you go. And there's a lot more going on aside from the chatter. I put images and stuff, so... But the guy who shot the original lava lamp footage actually gave me a copyright strike. I know, it's sad. And it's pretty sad because for me, I've been talking about the arts professionally as well for over 5 years now. And I realize that it's very difficult to talk about the arts in any forum. But it gets pretty bad when you get the copyright strike on a video that barely gets 10 views. And it's not viral content at all, but you still get that copyright strike. I suppose on my part, I must say that it was my mistake, because why did I have to use a lava lamp, and why did I have to use that lava lamp footage for this video? But anyways, what's the point in saying this? The bad thing is that it actually threatens to take down my channel completely. So that sucks. But anyways, we'll see what happens. I count on the goodwill of the guy who shot the video not to shut my butt down, unlike Quentin Tarantino did in that famous interview. Anyways, I hope you enjoy my chat with Tom. He's a really cool guy, a very interesting guy, and it was delightful to talk with him, and it was great to document my conversation with him. And also make sure to check out his film, I'm Talking to You, which is available now on Amazon, and all of the various projects that he's involved with. Say bye, Chloe. She's hungry, I think. Enjoy.
Hello.
Hey, Tom. How's it going?
Oh, Matt, so good to hear from you.
It's great to hear. It's great to hear from you too, Tom. It's been ages since we talked, and well, it's great to hear you for two reasons in particular. Actually, the first reason that comes to mind is actually it means that you've survived Storm Kira for now, anyways.
Yeah,
So far.
Storm or whatever. Yeah, well, I was down in Cork where I don't think it was so bad. I think it was
Right.
worse. I think it was worse in the west of Ireland, I think.
Yeah, I'm in Ormore. It got pretty bad, windy, rainy, all of that stuff. The second
Yeah.
reason is because we haven't talked in so long. We actually studied film in the mighty school of the Galway Mayo Institute of Technology, the good old days, Tom.
Hell of a school. Hell of a school.
Do you ever think about those days?
Yeah, I guess I think about them a lot. I mean, I've quite fond memories of being in college with you and with everyone, really. I've quite fond memories of. I have to say, for Matt's podcast listeners, that in terms of Matt, he was way too cool for all of us. All of us were striving to be as cool as Matt, but we all failed terribly.
Well, we all passed. I think we all literally as in we all kind of graduated,
We all
right?
passed. That's a good question.
But yeah, it was
I have no idea if we all passed.
I think I'm not sure, but well, whenever I think about it, I always think that we were a pretty cool year, but I think we were too cool for school, a lot of us.
I think we were all just really good friends, and we really didn't care about the school at all.
Yeah, but we I feel like I should have probably paid more attention in class. Looking back now, just thinking about it's been a decade now
You feel
since
like that?
then. Did you enjoy your time there? Did you find it was what you expected?
Well, the thing with you in college is your heart was kind of torn in two because you were in love with the music and you were also doing the film because you were in your band and you were doing the film. So you were in kind of two places at once psychologically. Do you know what I mean? And you were figuring out which one were you more keen on, which one did you more have a career with, I think. Was it what I expected to be? Probably not. It was probably something different, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was a good or a bad thing. Like I say, I have a lot of fond memories, and I certainly made a lot more friends in those 3 years than I made, I think, in all of secondary school or the PLC course I was on, or and after that as well. Just because, like I say, we all got on very well. But and I think that was good because filmmaking is so much of a collaborative effort. And for me myself, it had been such an individual effort up to then that being on a course with such people of a like kind of like minded way opened up my eyes to collaborating more with people and being more open to collaboration.
I've been kind of following what you've been doing for the past few years, and you've been
Mm.
doing you've been involved in, you've been involved in all sorts of projects. I mean, you've theater work and you shot films, documentaries, you shot a feature film, and were you just filming now the past few days in Cork for election? Did you film your election documentary?
Yeah, and I still am filming it because I don't have an ending for it yet. So I'm still filming a bit more. Going to try and like everyone in Ireland, try and figure out what happens
Yeah,
in the next few days. So
right.
it's interesting to have someone asking me questions because I've been going around for the last couple of days
Yeah.
asking questions to other people, saying, what do you think is going to happen? Who has impressed you in the campaign? Um, can I film this? Yes, I'll leave.
I hear you.
Um,
All I do sometimes is I feel like that's all I do is ask questions, which I feel also has made it harder for me to come up with any answers at all.
well, answers can be, over, rated, can't they?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, what do you think is happening? What's your take on the general elections so far?
Well, we'll talk about that very briefly because neither of us really, are that keen on it. But I have
No.
been keeping up with the filmmaking. I'm very, I'm passionate and interested in what goes on around me. And obviously, I filmed the last two elections in 2011 and 2016. I shot a 10-minute documentary in 2011. I shot a 27-minute documentary in around 27-minute documentary in 2016. And I just felt, gee, it would be a real shame if I didn't go and film the election coming up. I was saying this myself a couple of days ago or 2 weeks ago because I kind of felt like something was going to happen, and it turns out something has happened, which is in this case in Ireland is that our two main parties are kind of centrist or right wing parties have been unseated. We've got a new party, and now we have a three-party system for the first time in the history of our government. So I'm glad I made it, and I've been doing a lot of filming. I was not filming today, but I was travelling back from Cork today, which is where where I'm registered to vote, and I filmed the voting, the count centre on Saturday, which I got in a little bit of trouble with, but whatever. And on Sunday, I filmed the count centre. So I filmed in the polling station on Saturday and the count centre on Sunday down in Cork, and now I'm back in Dublin to film a little bit more and try and figure out an ending for my documentary.
What do you mean you got into a little bit of trouble?
Well, it's I was moved on by the guards actually, so maybe we.
What'd you
I was
do?
moved on by the guards just because I was filming. I was filming actually on the polling station, which you're not allowed to do, but I did it in 2011 and 2016. There was no trouble, so I was shifted away by the guards. I was trying to explain to them gee, if I'm out here and I'm across the road, I'm not going to be able to interview anyone. But eventually, they left, and I went back to where I was. I interviewed a few more people.
What do you do when something like that happens, though? How do you react to that disturbance?
Well, I think all my years of being in filmmaking, and dealing with various crises in one shape or another, you deal with it in a very calm and collected way, and you just say, fine, that's no problem. And then when the crisis is no longer an issue, you just go back and you carry on with what you were doing.
Yeah, but not everyone would be able to do it, I feel like, because I've only recently just started actually filming people. I do it in a very
Oh, really? You're
what I do
filming
is
people now?
I do long takes. I do uncut videos and actually upload them to my YouTube channel uncut because I like the long take. I was always afraid of doing that because I was always afraid of like pointing a camera at somebody. But you seem
Well,
to
you have
have
to ask permission. I mean, you ask
yeah.
permission from the individual. Can I film you? Which wasn't the problem I had. I had gotten permission off the individual, but I did not have permission to be filming in the place that I was filming. So it was a bit of a catch-22 whether I had one thing, but I didn't have the other. But if you just ask people, a lot of people are very interested in talking on camera, and a lot of people are very interested, I think, in having an outlet to express their views.
Yeah.
Is what I found.
You see, because I was, and we'll talk about your other work too then later on, but I was actually
All right, okay.
watching, I think I'd already watched it when you first uploaded it in 2016, but Marking Up the Score, which is the documentary you were
Oh yeah.
talking about that you'd filmed in 2016 around election
Mm.
time, and you actually go out on the road for that. And you see, that was always the problem with me, and it still is actually, because when I do it, I still feel like I'm a little bit. I don't know. I always feel like I'm intruding, and but you were quite fearless.
Oh yeah, I'm very intrusive.
You have no problem doing that.
Well, I might feel a little bit shy or a little self conscious, but I feel there's probably two things. Like one thing is I've done it so often, I've kind of just somewhat gotten over that sense of fear. And the other thing is the camera I have is kind of big, so I can just hide behind the camera anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What are you filming with?
I'm filming on at the moment a Sony A7S, which isn't the most contemporary of cameras. It was a 2015 model. I got it secondhand there a couple of months ago,
Is that?
and
Oh right. So it's not the same one you
but
filmed
still,
Marking Up the Score with.
no, I borrowed a camera for that. I borrowed a DSLR off of a friend for that.
Right.
But it's still a 2K camera, so it should be good. What do you think of my documentary and my marking up scores? Do you like that, or what do you think of it, or were you bored by it? Because I know for you, you're not really into politics.
On the contrary, I am fascinated with politics. I'm fascinated with the
Oh, I didn't know that.
discourse around politics. But I'm more interested in the discourse because I don't feel like I could ever belong to any party in particular. I don't know about you,
Mm.
but that's how
No,
I
I
feel.
feel the same way probably.
And I love political documentaries. Just recently, I was thinking about, I don't know if you've seen D.A. Pennebaker's The War Room, but I love that film.
Oh yeah,
That's a
I love
great
the war.
I was recently thinking about it because I realized that he died just last year, and I actually got to meet him a few years ago, which was amazing.
You got to meet him. Wow.
I did, yeah. I interviewed him, and it was just him talking, really, because I asked him, I think, just a couple of questions, and he was so generous with his answers. He was just a hero.
Wow. Well, he's an incredible documentary. Obviously, um,
Oh,
he filmed the
Bob
Beatles. He
Dylan,
filmed
yeah,
Bob Dylan, one of my heroes.
yeah, one of your heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Besides your documentary work, just when was it that you completed your feature film? The what is it called again? I can't think of the title now.
Well, I'm talking to you.
That's the one. Yeah. When was it that
Mm.
you screened that?
We had a screening in Indie Cork, and we in October of 2018, and we finished it just in around then. We finished, I guess, a little bit before that. It was just a kind of that was a motivator for us when we got into that festival.
Yeah. Would you consider
Kind of
that
wrap
to
up
be
the
your
evening.
most ambitious project so far?
Oh yeah, I mean that was an insane project. I mean, my God, when I look back on that, I look back at our at how really fearless we were. I mean, compared to that, asking someone if I can film them is very much small potatoes. I mean, we did crazy stuff on that film, which probably no one should do, and I think we kind of did it just because we wanted to. Why did we? Well, we wanted to just try and push it and to see what we could get out of some of our experimental methods that we did. Like we did a lot of experimentation on that film, and some of it paid off, and some didn't. But I think you have to be willing to experiment if you want to succeed. You know what I mean? I mean, I think the idea of success without experimentation is impossible. So we did a lot of experimentation and crazy things on that movie.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of that movie. Yeah, very proud of that film.
Did you write the screenplay for that? The screenplay for that?
I wrote and directed it, and I co-edited it.
Wow, a bit of an Orson Welles there.
Yeah, well, I love Orson Welles. Orson Welles is he's everyone's hero when you go to film school, isn't he? That's who you want to emulate.
He's definitely. I watch not only his films but his interviews as well. I love to just hear him talk. But what was that film? What was the story of that film?
Well, it's been a while since I've done any PR for the movie, but the if I did any, probably not. But the premise of that movie was the story of two guards who work on the M50, and one of the guards, Mark, discovers a pirate propaganda radio signal, and the radio signal causes him to question his black and white view of the world.
And you wrote...
I kind of had that idea in college, so I don't know if it rings any bells with you, because I kind of had that idea for a while.
But you always had loads of ideas, Tom. You were one of the most creative of the bunch, I feel.
Oh wow, I'm flattered.
But even back then, I liked to look at your stuff because it was real a real vision behind it. I don't know. They were always different too. I remember your graduation film was like an experimental sort of an expressionist film.
Yeah, it was. It was, yeah.
Yeah, you're always very ambitious, and I've always been fascinated with keeping up with whatever you've done. And so that film in particular, how did you have a big crew? Was it difficult to kind of put together?
It was very difficult to put together, and it was very difficult to get put together. So to go into that, because it's good to talk about it, because I am quite proud of it, and it was a lot of effort by all of us who worked on it. So I finished writing that. I wrote that kind of over the course of 2014. We started shooting in June 2015, and I'd worked on another independent feature film called Demon Hunter by Zoe Kavanagh, dropping names up here in Dublin. And we had worked on that film for about 4 or 5 weeks in I guess September 2014 or whatever it was, and July, September 2014. And so when it came to my film, I took a lot of people off the crew of that and rolled them onto my film, including the producers of that film, Victor and Anna from Constant Motion Pictures, and it was produced under Constant Motion Pictures. And Victor and Anna, they produced I'm Talking to You, and they did a fantastic job in terms of supporting the script, helping me get kind of where it needed to go in pre-production. During shooting and towards the end of pre-production, they helped me find a lot of locations, because obviously so much of the film was set on the M50, and we couldn't film on the M50, which, for people who don't know, is a giant ring road in Dublin, around Dublin. And so you can't film it, obviously, just because, it's a motorway. So they helped me find a number of bridges and places that we could do some filming. Like there was a couple of bridges which were closed off to traffic, but you could still access on foot. So we were on a bridge where you could get this amazing backdrop. Like, I think the mistake that so many people make on films, especially student films, that Matt and I can see or understand, is that they put people on a sofa against a wall, and there's no kind of backdrop, or there's no depth of field is the word I'm looking for. So the fact that we could film on the bridge, which was where we had a number of key scenes in the film, meant we had this amazing depth of field where you could see the Wicklow mountains in the background. You had all this traffic going past in the background, and that added a real sense of scale. And so we started shooting the film anyway. This is a long-winded answer now, I know, but I'll try and tidy it up a bit as possible.
This is all good
But
stuff.
yeah, okay, cool. So we started shooting that in June 2015, and I would say we shot for about 3 or 4 weeks, and we got a lot of really interesting stuff. It wasn't stuff that any of us were completely satisfied with, even though we filmed what was in the script, and we filmed, I think, virtually all of the script except for one scene where we had a location drop out, and we had about 15 people on the crew, I think, at the height of it. Certainly 11 or 12, but I think it certainly went up to 15 at the beginning of it. And so we shot it for those 4 weeks. And keep in mind, these were people who were taking time off work or were working part-time, still had to pay their bills if they had rent coming in. So it was a film that was made under a lot of you always have that internal pressure of making a film, whether it's the money running out or it's locations dropping or whether it's trying to make a day and get out of a place. But there was a lot of external pressure on that movie in terms of people trying to, pay their rent and try to pay their bills while also trying to do something extremely creative. Be it the producers, be it the sound people we had. Sam, who did a great job on sound, Victor and Anna were working. And who else we had? Nick Rowe and Barry and Aidan and Jed. Aidan, our main actor, had to take time off work to do it. So, and it was lucky at that time in Dublin, it wasn't as high pressure as it is now in terms of rents. Like 2015, you were kind of somewhat coming out of the recession, but the kind of extreme capitalism that kind of came over us after 2016, 2017 hadn't happened yet. So it wasn't as crazy as it got later, but it was pretty crazy. But so we shot him out for those 4 weeks. We shot some really cool, some interesting experimental stuff that I was certainly interested in. We shot some cool kind of theatrical stuff in terms of filming a car moving when it wasn't really moving. We had some, people going past with the lights, which was actually inspired by Orson Welles. And then I think for August, so for July, August, then I went away because I got work on another Irish film called Handsome Devil.
Handsome Devil.
Yeah. So I worked on that in July and August 2015, and we kind of took a step back, and we'd look at all the footage and assess what we had, because obviously we'd shot for about 3 weeks, I would say, over the course of June, and we just needed a period to assess what we had. I think all of us kind of felt that we needed to film a bit more, but we weren't sure what it was because we had shot, like I said, 80 or 90% of what was in the script. So we had our amazing editor, Adam Symes, edited the picture, and he kind of edited the movie for a couple of months. And it was kind of decided that there was some stuff in the movie that was, as in all the case, that wasn't as strong as the other stuff. So over the rest of the period, from I would say October to January 2015 to 2016, we reshot not a lot of it, but substantial amounts of it on weekends and when time was available, because we weren't able to block book people off in the way that we had been doing during the summer. I remember one of our last days shooting was when David Bowie died, and we were just going out to film in Strawberry Fields in Dublin, and David Bowie had died that morning. So I think that was like one of the last days of the shoot. And then we so we had been filming on and off for 6 months with people coming and going, and the crew had got stripped down as well. From the 15 people that we started off with to maybe 5 or 6 key individuals by the end of shooting. And obviously I'm extremely grateful to all those people who came on. They all did a fantastic job. And then from kind of difficult to stretch the mind back to exactly what happened where, especially when a project goes on for so long.
Yeah, but you put in a lot of work into this project.
We put in a lot of work, yeah. And when we shot that initial kind of bulk of filming, it was a lot of work to kind of go back and assess what was good and what wasn't. So we shot some scenes a second time. We took out some plots, we took out some characters, and we had to kind of slightly. You can't change the whole film, but you can slightly, nudge it in a different direction, a little bit more to where you think it'll be a bit more successful.
Yeah.
And I would assume then over 2016, we spent the rest of that editing with Adam and Victor and Anna, and it was very much a collaborative process, which I think is what I'm proudest of. I didn't want it to become, the show, all about me. It was very much, it was an ensemble kind of cast, and it was very much an ensemble crew who kind of made it. Like anyone who had an idea, we would listen to them. And there were some scenes, like there was one scene where the characters went into a takeaway, and we just improvised a whole scene of dialogue of them. They go in, they order some hamburgers and chips, and while they are standing there and they are waiting for the order to come, they just make some dialogue up about their characters, and that was really fantastic.
I think I saw that scene actually.
Yeah, you might have, because I was really proud of that scene, and so I shared that a good bit. All that stuff we shot with Aidan and Jed on the road, that was just really fantastic stuff. Yeah, I'm really proud of that anyway. Yes, I'm really proud of it and really grateful to everyone who worked on it. Sorry, I'm shivering a bit just because I've just gotten home and the heating isn't on.
Oh.
But
hey, so
yeah, I'm
after all that
living
work,
in poverty. You see, this is a real artist.
well, I
He's
haven't.
while
Yeah,
he's doing the
that's
podcast, he's shivering. Do you know what I mean?
no. I get that. I get that.
For 6 months, and then we finally got out there. So we've gone to the Chicago Irish Film Festival and the Indie Cork Film Festival, and we got a very good reception of both of those. So it was good, and now it's on
amazing.
Amazon.
Were you happy with the result? Or you said that you had to take out some stuff. I mean,
We shot we shot at least two scenes twice. We shot the opening scene a second time because of kind of a scheduling error, and I think I have to take the blame for that because I was the one who made the call sheet that day. And because it was the opening of the movie, and Orson Welles said, you have to be grabbing people very early on. So we kind of filmed the opening scene, but we did it very much in a, rushed kind of way. And so I think later on in September, October, we really took the time with the opening scene. And we have a very strong opening scene because of it, because we spent, I think, pretty much a whole day filming that opening scene. And if you look at that opening scene, there's a lot of different elements in it that combine to make the overall picture that I'm really proud of. And we also shot another scene a second time, and I think we took out, there was a love story in there which I really just couldn't pull off. I wasn't able to write it, I wasn't able to make that work, so we took that out of the picture. And I think we changed the ending as well. Yeah, we changed the ending as well. We had an alternative ending which is locked away that no one will ever see.
no one will ever see, like no one was supposed to ever see The Other Side of the Wind by Orson Welles.
Yeah, exactly. But yet it's out and it's available. Yeah, it's funny how it works, isn't it?
Hey, have you seen it yet? What do you think of that film?
Probably the most hyped film in movie history, isn't it?
I think so.
I've seen it. Yeah. It didn't grab me or blow me away. I mean, it's very much a patchwork effort.
It is a patchwork, especially the second part. It's like, what are we gonna do now? You can just picture.
Yeah, you can kind of feel Wells becoming a bit desperate, trying to patch things together and make some stuff work. Like, it's still obviously amazing what he can do, the way he plays with the scale and the picture and the lighting. And we copied one scene, like
the light scene, yeah, the light in the car.
Yeah, we copied that scene for I'm Talking to You.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my favorite scene in the movie. That's the car sequence is my favorite scene in The Other Side of the Wind.
For sure. It's everyone's favorite scene. The car scene is. It's incredibly cut.
That's cool. What was it like to screen the film at last? Then, when all was said and done, it finally comes to screening the film. What's your emotion like before the screening and then after the screening?
It was. I mean, it's very positive to finish it, and that's the main emotion. I think the best screening that I went to was the cast and crew screening because everyone had worked on that. So it's it's very rewarding to kind of feel that you made it and you put it out there, and the people who watch it understand the struggle that you and everyone went through. Because you know, when we brought it down to Cork, I think there were, you know, it's difficult for other people to see the work that went into it, and it shouldn't be about that. It should be just about what's on screen. But it was great. It was great to see it, and it was great to see the audience react to it, and just to sit there. It's very scary, really. It's like a horror movie, you know, having to watch your own film,
Yeah.
especially with an audience. But you
Oh my
know,
goodness. I mean, I can only imagine. I don't know how people do it.
oh yeah, totally.
So were you worried? Were you just kind of like, you mentioned it was a nightmare, so.
Well, I wasn't really, you know, worried because I don't have to make a box office or anything like that.
It's a tough business to get into, right?
Yeah, sometimes I wonder even if it is a business. It's just
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Calling it a business is even, I don't know, but
But
anyway.
are you still, when you make a project like that, do you find it gratifying then in the end? Or do you wonder like, oh, all of
Well,
that?
well, the approach that I had with that, at least personally, was that I'm going to just make a film and I'm going to put myself out there and make a film that I really believe in the style that I'm interested in. And I don't know, you know, what other people may or may not think of that. So so that was the attitude that I wrote the script, we shot the script with in 2014, 2015. So by the time 2017 rolls around, 2018 rolls around, you have to accept that you made this film with a certain attitude and just be at peace with that, because you know, if you want something else out of it, you know, you have to, you know, you have to accept it's not the film that you want to make. I mean, I've written a film now which I want to be far more, you know, commercial is kind of a dirty word, but far more audience appeal. Put it that way. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm talking to you it really was an experiment. I mean, in one of the climax of the film, there's a chase through a supermarket, and we couldn't get permission for a supermarket to film in. So over the course of one day, we went into a number of shops, and we didn't have permission. We just went in there and we shot on phones. And what we would do is we would go around in a kind of convoy around all of Dublin in 3 or 4 cars, and we would just have one setup per a supermarket, and all these supermarkets, they're all the same, so there's no kind of issue of continuity really. And we would just kind of practice the setup outside in the car park, and then we would go in kind of individually. We'd go in carrying, you know, baskets, and we'd pretend we're shopping, and we'd all agree to meet, and you know, to see each other in, you know, the meat aisle or the veg aisle or the baby food aisle or whatever, and we'd kind of all pretend to be in there separately until I'd kind of go around to people subtly and say, you know, okay, if you stand there, okay, and if you come around this corner, and then if you look up at this moment and you look left and then walk off camera, and then we kind of get everyone into position, and we'd kind of be as inconspicuous as possible, and then I just kind of get out of the way, and we had our wonderful DOP there, uh, Alan, who did a great job, and we shot that on a mobile phone. We had two mobile phones actually. One was shot by Eamon and one by Alan, because we needed as much coverage as we could get. And so when everyone was set up in position, be it the actors in their position or be it the cameramen a little bit down in their position, I would just call action, and we would just go through and we would do the movements, and we would get a couple of takes, and then we'd move on to the next supermarket, and that's how we filmed the climax. So that's kind of what I mean about it being a kind of very experimental film.
Yeah, that's that's a great story. When you were mentioning the
Yeah.
shopping incident there, it just instantly reminded me of how, the filmmakers of the French New Wave used to just adapt to whatever they had. The famous
Well,
shot of
that,
I can't remember which film exactly it was, but it was a Godard film with the cinematographer pushing the camera person in on a shopping cart.
William Friedkin had a funny story that when he was shooting the French New Wave, or sorry, the French Connection,
Connection, yeah.
he had a funny story that he would wheel the cinematographer around, and people would make a lot of space for them because the guy's in a wheelchair. And then suddenly, and because they were filming in the subway, the cinematographer at a certain point would, leap out of the wheelchair and he'd go on a train, and then the train would just take off. So people were shocked by what was going on.
Oh man, those
Yeah,
were the days. That was an exciting time for filmmaking, the American New
yeah,
Wave. Hey, so
oh
Tom,
yeah.
we're well past the half-hour mark, actually.
Okay.
Hey, so but I'm happy to keep talking with you for a few more minutes. Actually, one of the things that I wanted to ask you is I remember
Mm.
one another project that as I said, while we were in college studying film, another thing that you were doing. I remember a project of yours was animation. It's amazing that you can actually find the time to not only shoot out, do all these things, be involved in documentary filmmaking and feature filmmaking, but also your sort of your work in animation is equally as fascinating because well, first of all, me I I'm a fan of animation, as I'm a fan of all other sort of like film types or styles or whatever.
Mm.
But but I mean, animation is particularly difficult. When you hear about production on these animation works, you hear of how big the crews are and how many people are involved in the making of these projects. But that particular one that you did in college, you did yourself.
Yeah, I did.
And did you learn how to do it
Um,
yourself too, or was there anyone
yeah,
assisting you
I
some way?
figured it out. Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
How
I
do
was
you
working
figure
extra vision at the time.
how do you figure that something like that out?
Well, it's not very complicated. You just put you just do a drawing, and then you put a sheet on paper on top of it, and you trace, and you just have the character move his arm or her arm or their leg or whatever you want them to do. And by trial and error, you can learn these things. Like,
And a lot of patience. I feel like it
yes,
requires a
well,
lot of
I have a
patience.
lot of patience.
You do?
I think I do. Yeah.
Wow. That's that.
If
Well, no,
anyone isn't been phoning in and saying I don't.
no. That's cool. I feel like I wouldn't have the patience to do something like that. But that's cool that you can do that. And now you're this new project you're working on now is animation as well, right?
Yeah, I'm doing a second series of my web series POXY Bleedin Shop, which is based on a true story about working in a terrible job. In this case, it's an off license in a very rough area of the city, and it's all the colorful characters that come into the off license, and how the customers or how the people who are working behind the till have to be handling and dealing with these things.
Now, when you
And it kind
say
of
that
deals
it's
with,
based on a true story, what do you mean by that?
well, it's based on true story because I worked in a terrible off license in a rough area of the city.
What city? What city?
In Dublin. It's in
Oh, in
Dublin.
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 Right.
Yeah.
And so these are the stories that you actually these things
Yeah.
happen to you, or you saw them happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all based on true stories. Like we had guys coming in, you know, coming into the shop and they were taking cash out of the tills and robbing stuff and chasing people around the store with knives and guns. And I was thinking to myself, gee, this is a really terrible job, but it would make a wonderful, kind of story because there are so many elements at play here. You've got people working on the minimum wage and struggling to pay their bills and their rent. You've got alcohol abuse. You've got drug abuse as well. Um, but you've got homelessness, which is obviously a major problem in Ireland. There's over 10,000 homeless people. Something like 700 of them are children. So I kind of wanted to address some of that in the animation, and I've made one series of it, which is all about people who come into the shop and the kind of funny things that
Yeah.
happen and that did happen. And so I thought animation would be an appropriate medium to do it in, because obviously if you have to do, I mean, you talked about having large crews, but the good thing about animation is it's not a large crew. If I want to have a set in an off license or a shop, I just draw a shop. I don't need to phone up 20 shops and try and get permission. I just draw a shop.
Yeah, but it's interesting to me how you can go from shooting that feature film that you talked about and shooting documentaries and animation. I mean, you work with all forms basically.
Well, people keep on telling me I shouldn't. People
Why
tell me I
not?
should focus on one, and they're probably correct. It's better to be maybe a master of one than an amateur at all these things. But I'm passionate about all these forms and self-expression, and I think it's more outlets. Do you know what I mean? I think it's more outlets.
Yeah, and but besides that, I mean, you sort of mentioned it there. You can express yourself in different ways via animation. I think it's good. I mean, if you have the strength and the patience, as you said, to just do animation as well, I think you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you have the stubbornness and the stubbornness to do that, you may as well. And I think what I'm going to do now is try and combine some of the mediums. Like I'm finishing off this documentary on the election now, so I might try and work some animation into that. Do you know what I mean?
There you go. Yeah, that
Yeah.
definitely. And if you can get that done yourself, even better, because then you don't have to ask anybody to do it, and you
Yeah,
have
exactly. You're
control
not
over everything.
playing. I think that's somewhat the Irish way, that there's kind of a stubbornness to be doing it on your own.
Yeah.
And that if I can do it, what's the point in paying for someone else to do it if I can just buy a tablet and a pen and just draw it? Like why would I pay someone else to do that?
Hey, so this might be a silly question, but I'm actually interested in tiny things like this. But while you're
Yeah.
drawing, surely you must be like, I don't know, listening to some music as you do that, or something to just keep your mind in check, or just
No,
not
I
go
don't really
crazy.
listen to music while I
No.
do it. I mean, no, sometimes towards the end, in the last hour, I might play some Beatles, but that's about it.
So it's more of a meditative process.
Well, I mean, you're very focused, aren't you? I mean, you're so focused on what it is. It's almost like you're in a kind of, Zen kind of state. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of like a meditative process. It's like
Yeah,
meditation.
exactly. Yeah.
Tom, this is
Well,
fascinating.
have you done it? Of
Let me just ask you one more question. Have you seen any?
course.
Because we're both cinephiles, it's not. There's no denying that. We're obsessively into cinema. Um, have you
Mm.
seen anything recently? Have you seen anything recently that impressed you? Maybe something that was Oscar nominated. Something. Did you watch the Oscars?
I watched the highlights because in Ireland here there was on our terrestrial TV anyway. There was no channel showing the Oscars because they only start I think at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. maybe. So I watched the highlights anyway yesterday at home in Cork, and they were good. It's great that Parasite has won. That's obviously a major thing. First time an international film has won the Best Picture Oscar. It's only opened in Ireland now in the last couple of days,
You haven't
so I
seen it
haven't
yet,
seen it
no.
yet. No, I
All
haven't
right,
seen it
yeah.
yet. But apparently it was open in Australia since May.
Yeah, I guess it's closer
Yeah, I
than
guess so.
here.
Yeah.
But I saw it on a plane actually, on a flight to Macau.
Oh, you
My the
finished?
Yeah, I saw it in the flight to Macau. It was a long flight, and it was there, and I was like, I need to see this, and I loved it. Um, but
And where is sorry, Macau? Where is it? Where in the world is that?
that's near China. But
Okay, so you were going over to China.
I've been to China. Yeah, Macau is like the
You want to be
Monaco of
careful going over to
China.
China at the moment.
It's like the Monaco of China. There's a lot of casinos there, and
Oh,
a
wow.
lot of other things that you would identify with Vegas. But it's a crazy place, and there's a film festival there. That's why I go.
Okay,
Um,
cool. Okay, and did you enjoy Parasite, or what did you think of it?
yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a terrific film. Yeah, it's
Mm.
definitely a history, one for the history books. What happened at the Oscars? But anything else that you watched recently that you liked? What did you think of The Irishman? That's a big movie.
Yeah, good question. That kind of got for a bit forgotten about, I think. I mean, I loved it. I thought it was a great. I thought the reason he made the movie must be because of the third act. Martin Scorsese, De Niro, Al Pacino. We, I think we've seen those first two acts a lot in stuff like in Mean Streets and Goodfellas. Um, what else in Casino? But the third act, I thought we had never seen before. So I thought the third act was probably the reason they made the movie. And I thought the third act was fantastic. Do you know what I mean? I thought it was a great film. But
Yeah,
I don't feel like I want to rush out and see it again. Like I saw it in the cinema
yeah,
when it came out, and I thought it was terrific. I mean, it's a real honor to see that kind of, maybe honor is a strong word, but it was real pleasure anyway to see that kind of old school filmmaking in the cinema with these, giants of cinema, Scorsese, Pacino, Joe Pesci, I mean, how often are you going to see that?
I think that was
Like,
a
I would
delight,
imagine,
yeah, for the viewers as well as for him, because it must have been fun hanging out with his old buddies again.
oh,
Plus
completely,
Pacino,
yeah,
I
completely,
don't think
yeah, I
he'd
think
worked
so,
with
yeah.
Pacino before actually, so it was a first for him. So his buddies and Al Pacino, his new buddy Al Pacino.
Yeah, his new buddy Al Pacino, yeah, which I'm sure he got on with just fine.
Of course. Hey Tom, thanks for doing this. It was so great talking with you. We should do this again.
We should, man. I mean, if you're in Dublin, you should, drop us a line, or if you're looking for a place to stay. Are you coming up for the film festival in February?
No, I'm not. When is that on actually?
I think it's on the second or third week of February. I'm not sure.
If I can, I
What
might come
in the
up because
second week now? I'm not
there
sure.
was
It's soon though.
a few years ago, I went up to Dublin. It was really funny. The Alav Diaz film was on, and it was like 6 hours long. I hadn't seen it, and I really wanted to. So what I did was I just I hopped on a bus and got into Dublin literally like as the film was starting. I just got into cinema, and then when the
Oh
film
wow.
was over, it was already time to get back to Galway. So it was like I literally
Oh,
just went to the cinema, and it was a 6 hours on a bus, 6 hours in the cinema, and that was the day.
nice.
So I might do that again if there's a cool film on. But usually, yeah, I don't really go to Dublin that much. I associate Dublin with fatigue because it takes so long to get there from Galway and
Well,
and
it's
then to
only
go
two and a
back.
half hours now. It's not that long, man.
It's so long. I just don't have. I'm not patient, you see. And with
Yeah.
that,
Okay. Well, yeah.
I,
You have to have patience. Yeah.
and with that, we come to a full circle. Thanks, Tom. It was
Yeah.
great talking with you.
No worries, Matt. Great talking to you as well.